Hello, everyone. I would like to begin by acknowledging that I am situated on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. This ceded land is covered by the Haldeman Tract, land granted to the Haudenosaunee of the Six Nations of the Grand River after their contribution to the British during the American Revolutionary War. The Haldeman Tract runs 6 miles on both sides of the Grand River, and this river runs through what is now referred to as Waterloo, Ontario. This land is also covered by the Haldeman Treaty, which is what granted the Haldeman Tract to the Haudenosaunee or the Six Nations, as well as Between the Lakes Treaty, Treaty Number 3 from 1792, and the Simcoe Patent Treaty, or Treaty Number 4 from 1793. Between the Lakes Treaty is one of the treaties negotiated between 1781 and 1820 by the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Simcoe Patent Treaty covered about 675,000 acres of the land allocated in the Haldeman Treaty. In the past, many Indigenous peoples inhabited this land, and the most common dialect was an Ojibwe language called Anishinaabe. Currently, the closest Indigenous community to this land that we are inhabiting is the Six Nations of the Grand River, and we offer them our full respect. The hope is that during today's DWF Live, we can respect the lands in which we inhabit, and we are able to learn and grow so that we can take further steps into our path towards reconciliation. As we gather today on these treaty lands, we are called in solidarity with our Indigenous brothers and sisters to thank and respect their stewardship for this sacred land. I now would like to pass it to Sabrina, the host of today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia, for that beautiful land acknowledgement. Hi, everyone. I am Sabrina Ashkenab. I am the Education Programs Assistant here at the Gord Downie and Cheney Wenjack Fund, and I thank you for joining us today. So the Gord Downie and Cheney Wenjack Fund is inspired by Cheney's story and Gord's call to build a better Canada. The Gord Downie and Cheney Wenjack Fund aims to build cultural understanding and create a path towards reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. So it's great to be here live for our DWF Live with DJ Osho. So did you know that just by joining us here today, you're taking a reconciliation? A reconciliation is a meaningful step that moves reconciliation forward. So anytime you are learning about Canada's true history and the experiences of Indigenous peoples, or learning about the great thing Indigenous peoples have contributed to this country, or building relationships with Indigenous people, those are all reconciliations. So thank you for taking part in a reconciliation today. We have lots of people joining us all across Turtle Island, and we want to make sure we answer as many possible questions as we can. If you have any questions or comments for DJ Osho, please put them in the chat. So going on into Orene. So DJ Osho brings energy and expertise to every event she hosts and DJs. She brings professionalism and passion and remains true to her love for hip hop and R&B, incorporating beats to ensure you never want to leave the dance floor. From Vancouver to Toronto, Las Vegas to Texas, DJ Osho keeps the dance floor packed, working with clients to put together unique packages and customized playlists for weddings, birthdays, holiday parties, and corporate events, restaurants and club openings, charity fundraisers, youth conferences, and pride events in her city. DJ Osho has experience teaching with an inspired approach. She is an inspirational teacher, having traveled across the country to bring ambition and drive to all generations. She is an elected member and spokesperson for the Squamish Nation Council. So coming from a diverse background, Osho is driven by her passion. She is Afro-Canadian and First Nations and is a proud member of the Squamish Nation. Feeling as though she stood out in a unique way, she has embraced both of her cultural backgrounds and incorporates the teachings she has learned into everything she does. So let's welcome DJ Osho.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Hot Squile, Tanoya, Squamish, Aslahan, Okomel, Orene Askew, Queen Sna, Chinwa, DJ Osho, Tamalia, Queen Kushamen. Hi, my name is Orene Askew, also known as DJ Osho. I'm Afro-Indigenous from the Squamish Nation in Vancouver, BC. And my ancestral name is Tamalia. It belonged to my great-great-grandfather, and the name I just received a few years ago at a beautiful ceremony in our Squamish Nation community, and it's over 200 years old. So today I'm going to talk about a bit the little bit that I do in my community and around the world in a PowerPoint, and then I'm going to show you a film that was made about me. So I had cameras follow me around for about 6 months a few years ago to show the world exactly what I do and how I do it. So let's get started. I'm really excited to be here with you today. So we'll start the PowerPoint. And thank you for that amazing intro. Apologies for the long bio, but I do a lot. So diversity makes beautiful music is my tagline. Me and my business coach made up the tagline because it's true. I think when people are hiring DJs now, they want something very different. And it's not just the same old 50s announcer guy on the microphone playing records. It's very different now. And it's amazing. It's amazing how different it is now. So next slide, please. Okay, so we'll start from the beginning. Like I said, I'm Afro-Indigenous. My mother is from the Squamish Nation, and my father is African American from Gary, Indiana. And Gary, Indiana is a very famous city because the Jackson family is from there. And I've actually been to their house. My dad grew up down the street from Michael Jackson and the rest of his family. So every time I go back to visit my family, that annoying tourist that makes them take me to the Jackson's house, which nobody lives in right now. It's a monument, but people come from around the world to write messages on the wall, and it's really interesting their backstory. A very musical family who grew up in a very very small house. It's so small, it's so tiny. I can't believe they all grew up there. And like I said, my mom's from the Squamish Nation. She is a residential school survivor. She went to the day school, St. Paul's Day School in North Vancouver. And that's me in the middle there, and I'm pretty sure that's the last time I wore a dress. Next slide, please. So my community, a lot of the Indigenous population goes to Carson Graham in North Vancouver. And when I graduated, I was one of the people that was waiting beside my mailbox to see if I graduated on time. It was very important to me because my mother said, if you don't graduate on time, you're going to go to summer school and you're going to have to pay rent and all the stuff I didn't want to do. So I graduated on time. Luckily, back then, I got 54 credits, but you only needed 52. So I'm grateful that I actually did the work in grade 12 and graduated from high school on time. Next slide, please. So in my nation, because of land claims, when you turn 19, you get a trust fund. And when I turned 19, I got this beautiful car. It's a 2002 Chevy Cavalier. And I tinted the windows and put a huge sound system. It was one of those cars that would probably set off alarms if we drove by. And it's funny because I loved that car back then, but maybe because I'm older now, I don't really like cars like that anymore. So I got that with my trust fund, and I went to Capilano University and took business administration. And it's interesting seeing young people get a lot of money. I think over the years, the young people have become more responsible, and it's just, I'm going to be honest, it was overwhelming when I was 19. I got this trust fund, and then I was getting my funding to go to school, and then I was getting paid to go to school. So I'm very fortunate that we have opportunities for that, but it's a lot. It's a lot on your shoulders when you're 19. But I saw a lot of the young people kind of wasting their money. I don't think I wasted my money. I got this beautiful car. With next slide, please. So when I was 25, I decided I wanted to be an on-air radio personality. So I took the radio broadcasting program at BCIT, and it's one of the best in Canada. I think it's second to Ryerson in Ontario. So when I graduated from there, Barack Obama actually showed up to my graduation. I brought him on the stage with me. So after that, I did an internship at Virgin 94.5 in Vancouver, and it was such an amazing experience. And I wanted to do it as well down in Washington because I do have dual citizenship because of my father. And I worked at Move 92.5 in Bellevue, Washington. And it was interesting to see both radio stations and how similar and how different they were. Like the US, like down in Washington, they have 50 radio stations. Well, back then they had 50 radio stations in their market, and that's almost like double the size of Vancouver. So you could imagine, and we're all over the city at, colleges, universities, fashion shows. It was a really cool experience. Next slide, please. So in August of 2012, my nation had a small business grant program. So if you made a business plan and it was approved, they would give you some startup money. So luckily, I got some startup money to start my DJing business. Next slide, please. So in Vancouver, the heart of the city, the club district is on Granville Street. And when I first started DJing, I got a residency right away. And the residency is like, say you're at a place every Friday and Saturday and you have a set time. So every Friday and Saturday for 2 years, I was at Speakeasy from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. So that was a great experience. And I'm so fortunate that I was able to get that right away, because a lot of DJs are doing it for like 10 years and then they finally get on the Granville Strip. But I got in within a month or two. So next slide, please. So I always talk about how humans are very odd because they have to go through something very traumatic or bad to get to the good stuff. So my traumatic thing was on November 3rd, 2012, and at 8 a.m. in the morning, my eyes just woke up, just very distraught, because I had DJed the night before and I got home at 3 a.m. So I woke up to my neighbors pounding on my door to wake up. And next slide, please. My the townhouse I was living in was on fire, and that's what I woke up to. Unfortunately, the townhouse next to ours is totally completely gone, and how it started was from a grease fire. So I got out of that alive, and the only thing I thought to grab was my DJ gear. So I'm really grateful that I'm still here today to be able to tell this story and try to inspire others who've been through the same scenario, or just know what that's like. So next slide, please. So I worked at the School of Remix, the DJ production school in Vancouver. I was a student, and then I was the head instructor, and then I was running the business. And it was so cool because I knew what it was like to be a student. So being a teacher was a great experience as well. And working with people who really want to get into DJing and really have the passion for music, it was awesome. Because I just remember being in that position as well. So, and you can tell who's really, really, really passionate and who really wants it. And I would take those students under my arm and show them what it's like. Next slide, please. So these are just a few of the gigs that I've done over the years. I really enjoy working with Indigenous entrepreneurs. And there's something different about Indigenous entrepreneurs. I don't want to say that they care about their businesses more, but it's something about it. And I love it when they're, you know, wanting to, an artist is wanting to sell their beadwork or things like that. It's really inspiring, and it's something that talents that we have. And, you know, it's great. I love it. I love working with Indigenous entrepreneurs. And that's Adam Beach in the middle there. And I DJed at We Day when I first started DJing. That was awesome. There's a lot of celebrities there. And how I got that gig actually was an ad on Craigslist. So always always put your name forward, because you just never know what's going to happen. So next slide, please. So this photo was taken in Calgary at one of my first motivational speaking gigs. And I'm so fortunate to be able to travel across the country and tell my story. And it's been a lot of fun. Next slide, please. So these are just a few of the gigs that I've done over the years. And the most recent ones too are for the BC Lions, Vancouver Canucks, Vancouver Warriors, and Vancouver Whitecaps. That's a lot of fun. And yeah, I just wanted to show a little bit what I've done over the years. Next slide, please. I love this photo because this is a youth conference I went to in Calgary, and all of a sudden people just started putting up an O for Osho, and everybody does it in my community. It's really awesome. I love it when people just do it because they just know who I am and where I come from. And I love working with young people because they're the future. And two people I recognize, actually three. Charlene, she did a photo shoot with me. She was a photographer. And Kiefer Collison, who's from Haida, he was on Canada's Big Brother, and that was a few years ago. And he was voted best house guest. And then there's Shannon Patrick, who directed my music video, Status and Clarity. And he's one of the owners of Supermodel, or was it Supermodel? Supernatural, there we go. Supernatural's modeling agency, and they only represent Indigenous models. So they're on the come up. So it's really cool how people like that are in the crowd, and I get to work with them now. So next slide, please. These are just a few of the awards that I've won over the years. BC Indigenous Business Award and the Standout Award from the Vancouver Pride Society. I also won a Capilano Alumni of Excellence Award, Capilano University, and then DJ of the Year at the 2022 International Indigenous Hip Hop Awards. And I'm nominated this year for a YWCA Woman of Distinction Award. So I'm really fortunate and grateful for all the recognition. But next slide, please. So this is when I got into politics in 2017. An elder actually nominated me, and in our culture, in our protocols, if an elder asks you to do something, you don't really have a choice. So I put my name in, and I actually got in. So I did a term 4 years on Squamish Nation Council from 2017 to 2021. I'm not on council anymore, but I'm still in politics. But it was an amazing experience, and I was able to help create change in the community and more inclusion. Next slide, please. And I was just all over the city. People were asking me to start off events, very important events, especially for Afro-Indigenous folks across the city. So next slide, please. And this is what I do now. I'm a BC rep at the Assembly First Nations on the 2S LGBTQIA plus council. So it's the first of its kind, and they're working on diversity and inclusion in their organization. And it's funny because I always said I never wanted to do that type of work, and I basically just fell into it. So I'm in my second year on a 3-year term, so it's pretty incredible to work with Indigenous leaders from across the country. So next slide, please. So that was my presentation, just a little bit about what I do and how I got to where I am at today. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show a 20-minute film. It's called The O Show, and it just gives you a glimpse on what my day-to-day life is in Vancouver. And yeah, we'll have some questions, a question period after that. So if we can start the film, please. Thank you.
The one thing that music does is it brings people together. It's with the beat. Being Indigenous, we've been taught since we were very little with the drum beat of our traditional songs. That's the beat when you're in the womb. That's your mom's heartbeat. Everything is just connected by that, right? And so people can't deny good music when they hear it. And it brings people together. It's pretty awesome. Well, I've always had a passion for music growing up because my mom would listen to like Motown and have vinyl records around all the time. I feel like music is my outlet for everything that's going on in the world. It's kind of my place to disappear for the hour or two that I'm in my studio or where I'm at a gig. I'm in a different world and it relaxes me, it gives me comfort. And the fact that I can play a song, you know, that might make somebody really happy, it can like make their night or make their day. That's just a really powerful thing. That's why I love DJing too. It's just, you can't really put it into words. It's just the connection with people. And a lot of people are out there who are like musicians and artists. They have so much passion for music and you can kind of see it in their eyes.
She was a sweet little girl. In the car, we always listened to R&B, and so they grew up on that kind of music, R&B. She would be in the car and dancing and stuff.
Like I remember her working like retail jobs, restaurant jobs, like whatever she had to do to kind of provide for us. And I used to think it was cool. Like she used to work up at Grouse Mountain in the kitchen, I believe. And she would have me up there like kind of helping. So I thought it was really cool. And I took ski lessons up there too, like while she was working.
She didn't like it though.
And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna find myself a DJ school. And so into the internet you go. And the next thing I know, I got an email from one DJ Osho, Orene Askew. And my life changed. Orene was like, I was in her pocket. She was taking me along. She did all the things that I really wanted her to do, which was show me, do it, wow me, and then break it down for me and show me how to do it. But I have to say, the moment I plugged in to the sound system in the bar and she told me to turn it up, and don't be afraid, turn it up, I was hooked. One of the things that I've always noticed about her is the way she engages with people. And when you're talking with her, she's with you. She's not other places, she's with you. Presence is an extraordinary gift.
Starting off like with who I am, I just feel like there's not enough representation of Indigenous people, Black people, or Two-Spirited people. So I feel like if people believe in this higher power, the Creator has just chosen me to kind of step up and to work specifically for those people because they're really marginalized and things are really coming out right now. It's basically our time to shine. I feel like giving back to my community and giving back to all those communities is the right thing to do. It's what I've been taught. It's what my grandma did. You know, my grandmother had a shop on the reserve and kids would bring her notes from their parents because they were out of food. And my grandma would say, okay, they can pay me later or just this is on the house and would give them food, right? So it's just been passed down to me to give back. I always get the sentiment, you know, like, you know, I don't see color, or we live in one world. Like, I get the sentiment, but that's not it. You know, if anything, I do see color, and I celebrate your color, and I elevate your color, and I understand, you know, I understand. I can't really tell you what to do. Like, I don't teach anti-racism classes, which some people think I do. I don't, but I can tell you about experiences that I have had in my life, and then maybe you cannot do that. It's totally relearning a structure that we were taught. And it's interesting for you all because you're learning the truth. I'm very optimistic about your generation because I think you're gonna be the change. You're not jaded.
For a big round of applause. And thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. I think it's really important to mentor youth just because that's what we've been taught our whole life and that's what our elders do for us. We just keep sharing stories and sharing our knowledge of what we know. And it's funny because I joke around sometimes and I say, it's an investment in my future because I want to be rolling around in a gold like wheelchair when I'm older And if I'm giving to the people that are going to take care of me when they're older, then the bonus for me. Since I was born, I've been told legends and stories, and I think that's our art form as well. We're just amazing storytellers. We might talk a little bit too much sometimes, but like, that's our thing. It's oral traditions passed down to one another, and I think we do it without even thinking about it. It's just like in our DNA, like our elders have done it since time immemorial, and that's how we've learned. And I feel like we have a lot more to learn and a lot more stories to get out of our elders that are left. But that's art in itself, I think, is storytelling.
So with the Squamish Nation, my job was to assist entrepreneurs with getting funding for their businesses, to help them with the conception of their idea for their business or the expansion of their business. When I first met Orene, she was this shy young lady that, kind of did DJ work on the side, and I heard about her, and, she was an up-and-comer, like, throughout the nation. I see potential in a lot of people, which I think made me very good at what my job was, because I see a lot of gifts that people have. But Orene had something special. She shone, but she didn't know it yet. And maybe if she knew it, she didn't know how to put it out there, but she certainly does now. And I just saw her blossom. Every time that Orene would win something, her whole community started to merge together, and they started to really be interested in what Orene was doing.
This is going out to the people in our territory, Squamish Nation, especially the tumultuous.
My sister is amazing, and I think sometimes just the way that she sees the world is sometimes a little bit, this is a good thing, it's just not where I'm at. It's a little bit of a Pollyanna. She wants to see really the best in people. And so I think that, I don't know that she was prepared for how it was actually going to be in being on our council. Working for the nation for so many years, I've seen different councils and I've reported into them, and it can be quite challenging. So I, kind of questioned her to make sure she was sure, knowing that like any job, that for her, she's going to put her most into it. And it can be exhausting at points, really rewarding, but also exhausting. And it's just something I don't know that you can prepare yourself for.
And so I said, you know what, I'm going to give it a try and see if I can make it to the table. And I was just in absolute shock when I was lucky number 16. I got in by 20 votes, and I was just like, wow, this is a huge opportunity to make some changes in the community.
Oh my God, I was so excited and so happy. I mean, even when she was like at the end, I was so happy that she made it. And I defend her as much as I can, because there's a lot of ugliness towards the council. But we used to go out like once a month. She would take me out and just vent. And I was there to listen.
Like, I'm from the first generation that didn't go to residential school. So people always ask me how I'm so positive and I just keep going. I think that helps too, because my mind and my heart aren't so jaded for having to go through something like that. And then I see these young people who have that innocence still, and they see the world in a completely different way than others. They're so optimistic and they're so positive. And that's why I think I really connect with them. Like, we have that same attitude, like, let's do it, let's get it done, let's keep going, Sometimes I feel like a stork just dropped me off, like, at my house and was like, here, deal with it. Because I was brought up as like an Indigenous person, and that's what I feel like. So I ask people if this makes sense when I say this, and they say yes, but I forget that I'm Black sometimes, especially in Vancouver. There's not a huge Black community here. There is one, though, I'll recognize that. But I've been just immersed in an Indigenous culture and not really Black culture in Vancouver.
Hot Squile Tanoia, Squamish Oslahan Okumeo, Orene Askew Queen Sna, Chinwa DJ Osho. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Orene Askew, also known as DJ Osho. I am from the Squamish Nation, and I want to welcome everyone to our shared territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. I'm also the spokesperson for Squamish Nation Council,
So I'm a politician. So I'm a DJ and a politician. Quite the mix there. But most importantly, I'm Afro-Indigenous.
I started going to rallies back in 2016, and that's kind of when the BLM chapter began here. To see other Black folks in Vancouver just come together like that so peacefully, it was amazing. I'm from all these different communities, and a message is getting out in one person from all three of those different communities, the Black, the Indigenous, and the Two-Spirit. So I felt like it was really important for me to be there, and it's just such a sense of comfort that they have like a chapter of BLM here in Vancouver. I think what a lot of people think is that, you know, when they hear racism, they think of like KKK and lynchings and stuff, which is a form of racism, but that's pretty harsh racism. Where here, it's hidden. It's hidden in the systems, like the education system. I've heard comments under people's breath, like about me being there. And I'm just like, what? You know, like, I'm like, I can't believe people still think like that. It's in the healthcare system, you know, it's in all these different systems. I think people should just learn about other people's experiences, and don't be in denial that it happens here in Canada, because it does. It's really hidden. There's so many racist microaggressions that come like every day, and sometimes I don't even notice it because I'm just so numb to it. Like, I'm just so used to it. Like being at a grocery store and feel something, like not so much since COVID, but before, like I felt something kind of grabbing at my hair. And I look back and this lady is playing with my braids. And I'm like, I look back, I'm like, excuse me. She's like, oh, your hair is just so nice. I'm like, how do you go up to somebody and just start touching their hair? Like, I'm not a pet. I think about all of the other people that have probably experienced the same thing, and I feel like within the changes that have happened within the last year, like the murder of George Floyd, I think it's more acceptable for people to talk about their experiences with racism, and it might make people a little uncomfortable, but I think right now is the time for people to talk about their experiences. Like, it's okay, and we're not trying to make people feel guilty. We want people to know what we've experienced and to have more compassion for our people.
When she came out at, I don't even know exactly when that was, I want to say she was a teenager, and that wasn't really shocking to us, but I think that takes a leader to be able to go through that. I can't imagine what that is like to go through, but she came through that. And has been quite inspirational since then, not only to, I think, our family and more so my boys, because they look up to her, but through her work in the community and the work that she does with youth across the country. I think that kind of amplifies the leader that she is.
That was hard for me, is trying to identify myself and not seeing that around me. The term Two-Spirit comes from, it's an Indigenous term, and it came out in like maybe the mid-90s, but I only heard about it within the last like 5 years. And when it was explained to me what it was, I said, okay, that's me. And it's interesting because I feel like as a young queer person, you're kind of looking for that definition. I think that's the one that resonates with me the most.
Status and clarity, that's right, life hasn't been fed to me. I wouldn't trade it for the world, I'm all about this. Status and clarity.
It was really cool. I feel like it was like more like journal writing, kind of what was inside of me, and then Jane helped me kind of edit that and put it in kind of a hip-hop cadence.
I think that Orene's voice is such an important one because of the way that she engages with other community. Having a key public figure like Orene have a bigger voice, a more personal voice, like in music, rather than just DJing, really expressing her personal truths is such a powerful thing. She has so many aspects of self that she's willing to share, so many unique communities that she represents just by being herself, powerfully being outspoken. And I wanted to make sure I didn't get in the way of that in any way, yet gave her as much power as I could to rap, to learn to rhyme, to feel groove, to feel rhythm, but in a fun and authentic way.
I was just honest about things that I've gone through in my life and things that are going on right now. I talk about residential school with my mom, you know, this thing called the Indian Act. I have a status card. Some people don't even know what that is. I basically have a barcode by the Canadian government, and I memorized that number since I was so little. But yeah, that's in it. It's all me. It's everything I've gone through and what's gonna happen in the future and what's happening right now.
Pride, utmost pride I have for her. Like, I always tell her she's so amazing, and I'm so proud. I'm a proud mama and superstar. Both my girls are, I call them superstars.
Yeah, Mom, thank you. Thanks for always being there for me. Thanks for not stopping. You just kept going. And I hope that I can do that.
Of course. You will. I know you will. I've had to overcome some weaknesses along the way, as far as like drinking. It'll be 29 years on the 20th of this month, and she remembers it every year. Yeah, I did that for my kids, to break a cycle.
Really the trials and tribulations of going through being a young, Black, Indigenous, LGBTQ, all of that. Challenging is an understatement. I don't know what the word is, but she's been able to come through that and really share her experience. I think just speaks to her character and her leadership.
From a politician to a civil rights activist, to standing up for her heritage and her culture, to standing up for her sexuality and the rights for that. She's probably one of the most authentic, genuine, kind, and loving, wonderful people that I've ever met.
Who better to do this work than Orene? Orene is the person of the moment here. And again, she's so generous with her time and unafraid to say what needs to be said.
I wanted to put everything in there. Like, I'm Indigenous, I'm Black, and I'm two-spirited. And when we came out of it, Jane was like, you're gonna have to put that on a whole album because that's a lot. Like, this song only covers the Indigenous part. The track was actually called Conflicted. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, you know, I'm conflicted with all these things that I am. And Jane helped me realize it's not me that's conflicted. It's the world who's conflicted with me. I know who I am.
So here we go. Which team am I about or considered a member? Like blood quantum, what is that? My mama lost her status, then they gave it right back. 1/4 5 nickels, how to represent that? 555 according to the Indian Act. I'll give you this card so you can keep in touch. Scan me like a barcode, owes you very much. Mama forced a school where the priests ate great. Turkey with stuff and rich food on their plate. Students ate fast food, it was actually scraps. Stuff you wouldn't feed to your dogs or your cats. Still under his eye, the colonial one. Generational scars will never be undone. My people have been exploited for years. Turn off the camera, we've shed too many tears. Status and clarity, that's right, life hasn't.
Awesome. That was an awesome video. Thank you, Orene. So we just are jumping into our Q&A. So earlier this month, we had Julian Taylor join us for a DWF live session, and he shared a lot about what it's like to be Afro-Indigenous and his experiences of walking the two worlds. Obviously, everyone's experience is going to be unique. Can you share a bit about your experience as an Afro-Indigenous person?
Yeah, for sure. I actually was born and raised on the Squamish Nation Reserve, so I've been around Indigenous culture like my whole entire life. And like I said in the film, it feels like a stork dropped me off because I'm very Black presenting, but I know more about my Indigenous side than my Black side. And I know other Afro-Indigenous folks, it could be the same situation or it could be the alternate, right? They know more about their Black instead of the Indigenous part. And I think it's been, a long road coming because I think we're finally getting the recognition or exposure right now We've been here for a very long time. There's quite a few members that are Afro-Indigenous in my nation, and I know I've seen many around the world. So, you know, it's an interesting feeling, you know, saying that you're Afro-Indigenous now, especially I get to see it on a microphone in front of thousands of people. It's very, very empowering and very liberating, because I don't think it's something that people hear that often. And I'm just really proud of each intersection, and I hope that I can represent each one really well.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for like joining us today for and especially this month for Black History Month. But another question I had was, what was your initial thought when like your name was first given to run for council?
Terrified.
Yeah.
You know, something I say to people is like, there's those memes that you see online about chief and council, and I always tell people when I was on council that those really hurt our feelings, but I have really good people. My aunties are a great support system, and my mom and my sister, like you saw in the film, I have amazing women around me, but I just knew that I wanted to try to make change on a bigger level. And it's interesting when you're young, you kind of have that attitude like, you know, someone else is going to take care of that. But we're getting older and we're getting to the age where we have to take care of it. So if I could advise people to get into politics, I will, especially young folks. I think we need their voices more than ever right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like, we are like the future. I feel like I'm not even a youth anymore. But I mean, like, young people are the future, and just like are what we need for change.
For sure.
So I do have another question. What was it? What's the award that you were being nominated for again?
Oh yeah, YWCA Woman of Distinction Award, and it's in the category of art, design, and culture.
That's awesome. Well, congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we are going to go to a couple questions in the chat. If anyone has any questions, please be sure to drop them. But Xavier from Aloha Public School in grade 8 wants to know what it feels like to get recognized and win awards.
It's amazing. Thank you for the question, Xavier. It's an amazing feeling to be recognized for what you love to do, and you put all your blood, sweat, and tears into something you're very passionate about, and people notice it. So I'm really grateful and fortunate, and hopefully I can inspire other people to go into something they're really passionate about, and people will recognize those things you're passionate about.
Yeah, it's crazy how much you do. Though I'm like, how do you balance everything? Because like you have a broad range of like you said in the video, you're a politician and a DJ. Like those are so completely different worlds to be a part of. So
yeah, for sure. And I think they balance each other out. You know, I could have a really hard political 8-hour meeting with some chiefs or something, and then at night I get to go and DJ and just let it out, you know.
That's funny. So
yeah.
From Aloha Public School as well, Viraj wants to know what was the most motivating factor to become a change maker?
I think one of the things that's coming up for me is I was able to work on a profile getting a rainbow crosswalk in my community. It's actually down from my house, and it sparkles in the sunshine, and I absolutely love driving by it. And the more I tell that story, the more people are doing it as well. Like I did an opening for the Vancouver School Board a couple of years ago, and they did the same thing, and they said it's because of the story I told. They said how it sparkled in the sunshine and just gave me the best feeling, and they're like, oh, well, we're going to do that to our stairs. And I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
So that's just one of the things that pops up for that question. But just like, I feel like people are really listening now and seeing what they have to do to be inclusive. And I think it's an amazing feeling of just being able to start even just starting the conversation is awesome.
Yeah, I think even just like hard conversations or those kind of conversations are very important to have, and in order for things to move forward and to be open about it.
For sure.
Yeah. So our next question we're going to go to is Chris's. So what did you learn about being on band council?
Well, I was pretty upset when they cut the snack budget, but
as with everyone, I imagine.
I learned about what the process is in the community to make things happen. You know, you don't get trained a lot to be on council, but once you're in the ring, you learn about, you know, Robert's rule of order, you know, things like that, motions, just meetings with people. And it was interesting when I was on council, the pandemic hit like right halfway through, so that was very interesting as well, being a politician and being in that position to kind of calm people down, because that's what people do. They turn to the leaders when things like that happen. And I think we did really well. It's funny to look back on the things that we did though, like, you know, going grocery shopping and then washing your products and stuff like that.
Sanitizing them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny
Spraying
to laugh
them
at. I know. I remember I would go grocery shopping once a week and then come home and wash my clothes right away and then wash the products that I bought. But it's interesting how we took it that way, because we didn't know what was going to go on. But my nation did a really good job. We had like food delivery for all of the nation members on reserve, and they still do it actually every couple of months. So it's really cool. And I just learned how to make things happen, basically, like behind the scenes. That's what I learned from being on band council.
Well, that's a great like knowledge to have as well, like especially when running a business and just like with groups of people too, like how they run their organization or how things are done, like protocols and stuff. So that's very good to have in your back pocket. So we're gonna go to Jamie's question. So oh my goodness. Your positivity shines in everything you do. What is one piece of advice you have for those doing similar activist work as you?
Well, thank you for that compliment about positivity. I get asked that question quite a bit too. How do I stay so positive? And I always turn it back to the fire that I talked about in the PowerPoint presentation. It's like going through that has just given me a totally different outlook on life, and that I literally have to bring it more if I want to help out my community, and how it could be a lot worse. And my advice for activists is keep the idea or what you're passionate about, keep it in front of you all the time, and remember that's why you're doing this. I know it gets tiring sometimes and you get burnt out, but just remember you're passionate about the change you want to see, and just keep at it. And with politics, sometimes it's a really slow process, but I just know this is what I'm passionate about, and helping my people is always number one for me. And there's not many people out there like me doing what I do, so I think it's really important to stay grounded and have great people around you. You know, your family, your friends. Definitely seeing a counselor. I see a counselor once a week. I've been doing that for about 5 years now. Taking care of your mental health is very important, especially in this day and age. We're exposed to so much stuff every single day on social media and just in media and in general.
Yeah, I think that's great advice and a great answer to end today's session. So I just want to thank you, Orene, for today, and be sure to look back on our last DWF live session. So I also want to thank Sophia for doing our land acknowledgement, and that is where we're going to close today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Orene.